I just saw the best Electro Dragon attack strategy that I have ever seen in Clash of Clans, and today I have Agent from Space Station Gaming breaking down this attack strategy in this pro tip video. What is up, my friends? My name is Echo and welcome back to the channel for another Clash of Clans video today with something very special for you guys coming out of Space Station Gaming. Agent 33 is in the house with us today and he is going to bring us through what he did against this base in the Pinnacle Cup War to basically destroy this base in a way that you have probably never seen before with Electro Dragons. Agent, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Hey, Echo, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I love this series because I get to take you guys, the pro players from Space Station, put you in front of the audience here on YouTube so you could share that knowledge as to why you are so good in Clash of Clans. And today, we're focusing on this base. Now, when I look at this base, I see something that would give me a ton of problems, but honestly, every Town Hall 13 base that I look at will give me a ton of problems just at my current status in the game. But I want to hear all about this army, this base, and then you're going to take us through the attack. How does all that sound to you?
Yeah, it sounds great.
All right, cool. Before we get into any of that though, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for daily Clash of Clans videos and more pro tip videos just like this one. But I guess, Agent, let's start with you talking about your army composition. I'm seeing 7 E-Drags, 9 Loons, and 5 of those Super Goblins. Tell us about the composition and what your thought was against this base.
One of the first things that I noticed on this base when I was looking at it was for an E-Drag starting on the mortar that's at 1 or 130. The only building that's within 2 tiles of it is the elixir storage, and the only building that's within 2 tiles of that is the air defense. The gold mine and elixir storage either side are too far away. So right from there, I see an opportunity for an E-Drag chain to start from the mortar to the elixir storage to the air defense, which is a really high value chain. And then with a rage spell, it can actually get that in one shot, which both creates a very nice funnel because you see the sort of empty space above the town hall at 12 o'clock. And then it'll also take out an air defense, which air defenses are one of, if not the biggest threats to E-Drags, especially on bases that have more focus towards defending ground. So making sure you can get an air defense early is really helpful. But then also that funnel, like I was saying, with the 12 o'clock area taken out, then the E-Drags have kind of a narrow area around the 10:30 between around the air defense that's at 10 and the town hall, where they can come in instead of being kind of spread out.
Yeah, so they're coming in one big chunk together.
Yeah, to make sure to get really good value out of the rage spells so that they're not too split up. It can be good to have the E-Drags kind of spread out, but you don't want them kind of having one split off. You want to keep them mostly together.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, were you concerned at all about scatter shots? I know everyone's scared of the scatter shots at Town Hall 13, myself included. Was there any special preparation you put into place to deal with those for this attack, or was it really not a concern?
I wouldn't say it was an especially big concern because the big thing about scatter shots is the splash damage, that they hit multiple units. So with E-Drags, you really only have 7 of them, so it really limits. Whereas if you have 20 Hog Riders or Miners all grouped together, it's hitting all 20 of them. Whereas if you have 4 E-Drags, it's only hitting 4 of your troops, so it's really doing a lot less damage overall. They definitely can be a threat, but I don't think it's nearly as much as with a lot of the other meta strategies.
Okay, well that makes sense. So you got your E-Drag coming in with that rage spell, getting that huge value, setting the funnel. What happens next? What's the next thing you are planning for? And after that, we'll kind of get into the attack so we can actually watch it happen.
So the next thing that I'm looking for is the other side. So something that is really nice to have for air attacks, both dragons and E-Drags, is when you can use both of the heroes together. Because a lot of times what you have to do, or when I say both of the heroes, I mean the king and the queen. And having them work together can allow them to get a lot more value. Because what happens on a lot of attacks is you'll just use the king on one side and the queen on the other, kind of naturally to funnel each side. But having that sort of easy funnel with the E-Drag on the one side allowed the king and the queen to be on the same side, working from the 9 o'clock area towards 6.
Okay.
And you see there's so much outside. There's a lot of defenses outside, but there's sort of a big gap outside that Inferno compartment at 8:30 or so, where there's no real DPS that's going to be flanking them. So the king will be tanking everything for the queen. So the queen will really not be taking any damage as she works down towards 6 o'clock. So that should just allow, or at least according to the plan, it should allow the heroes to get a lot of value working down from that 9 to 6 side.
Yeah, and you talk about a lot of value. Everyone's going to see how much value they get towards the end of the attack when they check out your queen towards the end of the attack. But so we have the E-Drag funneling with that rage. We have the king and queen coming down. Then we have all the E-Drags being dropped at basically 12 o'clock and all coming in one perfect storm, correct? Mm-hmm. All right. Now, yeah. Any other key elements to this attack? Maybe why the goblins, or are they just there for cleanup purposes? Anything else that's really important that you want to really point out before we actually watch the attack happen?
No, I think the sneaky goblins are a very, very important part of this attack, actually. Because one of the things for E-Drags is just when they're getting started can be the toughest part. For example, if you look at the gold storage that's outside the air defense at around 10 or 10:30 or so, that would be really annoying for E-Drags to destroy because it has a lot of HP, so it's going to take several shots unless you're raging, and then you have to rage really early. So then in that entire time, the air defense should just be able to take shots at them. If you have loons tanking, then the scatter will be able to help on those. So the sneaky goblins here actually were really, really big value, funneling that sort of 10 o'clock area, the 2 gold mines, the elixir collector, and the gold storage.
If you don't have sneaky goblins, do you go with regular goblins in the same type of attack?
I don't think I would. The sneaky goblins is not something that you would be able to use on every base, but I think that there's actually a good variety of bases that the sneaky goblins are going to be able to give you funnel value on. If you don't have them, unfortunately, there's not really a great substitute for them, because if you look around, like the cannon is covering, and around an outside storage, it's not unlikely that there'll be a Tesla, so I wouldn't rely on a regular goblin to be able to do it. That's why the sneaky goblins are so strong.
Okay, that makes total sense. Why don't we actually jump into the attack? You can take us through it, tell us what you were thinking and how everything was going to plan, and we'll jump into that right now. All right, Agent, the attack has begun. Fill us in on what's going on. What are you thinking right now?
So, very first thing, I dropped the Rage immediately to get the chain. I dropped it first to get the Elixir Collector, just to make sure that the E-Dragon paths up, because if I went for the Mortar first, there would be more weird pathing things that could happen with the E-Drag going down. Then I start dropping the Sneaky Goblins, as mentioned as well, to clear out the Elixir Collector, Gold Mines, and Storage. Then I get the King working from 9 o'clock. You see that E-Drag is working its way up towards 12 and still getting more funnel value, joining into the main force, even though it's getting lower on health. Start working, feeding in a couple more E-Drags, and add in the Queen. At 9 o'clock, to keep working with the King, and you see the King's just tanking everything for the Queen and keeping her nice and healthy. And this Stone Slammer, from around 10 o'clock, going into that air defense to deal with that whole compartment. A freeze gets very nice value on the sweeper and the scatter shot, and then a rage spell for the E-Drags, as well as a rage spell for the troops coming out of Slammer. Combing through the Giga Bomb and trying to lasso the Eagle. I don't remember 100%. Yeah, it looks like it takes most of that Eagle shot as well. So the raged E-Drags are getting really nice chains here in the cores, and you see the Queen is still working her way down. She does start to beat on the wall, but then she immediately comes back out, and there was definitely some things that went that were very fortunate. There's some randomness with E-Drags, but just got really, really nice chains. I was planning for the Royal Champion to do a lot more work on the back end than she ended up having to do, but the chains were just so nice that it wasn't very necessary. And yeah, at that point, I knew the base was definitely right.
I think you accidentally dropped a freeze spell over there on your clan castle too. Yeah, man, you had an extra freeze, a Queen's ability, you had the Royal Champion's ability, and I think it was one solo archer left over in that attack. I mean, that's a dominant attack. It took less than 2 minutes for it to start to end, pulling in the 3-star. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play it again in the background as we talk about a few more things. All right, Agent, so you mentioned that you didn't get the value out of the Royal Champion that you wanted. You wanna talk a little bit about that before we get out of here for the day?
Yeah, so it was not entirely a bad thing, I guess, that I didn't get valued, just because the E-Drags did so much and got such amazing chains through the back end of the base. But one thing that I found for Electro Dragon attacks is they pretty reliably can get to that sort of 80, 85, or 90% mark, and then they kind of can struggle on the back end. So that's where I found it's really important on bases where you don't get those really fortunate chains to have some sort of thing that you hold in reserve, whether it's your back end heroes with the king and the queen, or royal champion with some freezes, or your siege machine, a stone slam, or a blimp. It's really nice to have those for those attacks where you don't get the perfect chains through the base, to be able to clean up the back end. So for example, on this base, if I hadn't gotten quite as much value out of those chains, chaining the 2 single Inferno towers, that was going to be the Royal Champion's job, to clean those up. That's going to save a lot of your raids that are closer, and allow a lot of those high percentage attacks that you might be able to get to. You might find yourself being able to get to, you know, the 85-90% mark pretty consistently with E-Drag, but then hitting that last 15 or 10% or so. Holding something back to finish that off is really, really key.
Yeah, and that's a really great tip, because me, typically, when I do these attacks, not being a pro player like yourself, I'll drop in my E-Drags after my funnel, then I'll drop in the Siege Machine from the side, and usually I drop in the Champion with whatever Siege Machine I'm using. So really good tip there to hold it a little bit longer, just to make sure that if I need something on the back end, I can get it done, because my E-Drags often do stall. How often do you actually attack with Electro Dragon? It's definitely not one of the meta strategies right now at Town Hall 13. Was this base just screaming for it, or is there something that you saw that said, I have to E-Drag this, or is this a strategy that you use all the time that you really enjoy?
Yeah, I've been practicing a little bit with E-Drags, doing some Legends attacks, which don't always go as well because you can't plan as well ahead of time for E-Drag. So it is an attack that I would say is somewhat base dependent, because if the defender builds really hard to defend against this, then it can be difficult. So E-Drag is not something that I would say is an attack I do super often. It's definitely something where I saw the chains in the base and saw the funnel value for the E-Drag at the very start.
All right, well, and that makes sense, but I'll tell you what, you have inspired me, because when we go back to my village, you'll be able to see that there's a whole bunch of E-Drags sitting in my camps, and that's because I saw your attack. I know that so many people that were watching this live, I believe Carbon Finn was streaming this, they were really impressed with just how this all went. And it really, like I said it in the beginning of the video, it's one of the best looking Electro Dragon attacks I've seen in a long time, if not ever. Just your planning was on point, but sometimes you got to get a little bit of luck, and you definitely had some of that luck along with the top level planning. Honestly, even if the chains weren't as beautiful towards the end, I still think you would have pulled in the triple on this one, but I think you did an amazing job, and thank you so much for coming through today and sharing your inside tips with everybody here on YouTube.
Yeah, thank you, Echo.
Agent, this has been fun. Thank you again so much for coming through. I think that we got a lot of value out of this video, and everyone watching trying to do these E-Drags, well, maybe they'll have a little bit of an easier time right now. Are there any last things or socials that you'd like to share with everyone, where they can find you before we get out for the day?
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter at agent33_COC.
All right.
And I'm really enjoying playing for Space Station. I think things are going well in a lot of competitions, and this war was actually the war that sent us to the playoffs, making it through to the final 32 for the Pinnacle Cup. So it's really exciting and big win, a lot of good things happening.
Yes, congratulations on that, by the way. Some of that on the back of you and your attack that we just watched. Space Station Gaming has been amazing. I love being part of it. And like you said, I mean, things couldn't be going better right now. Clash of Clans, we're on fire, and representing Space Station along the way. So, Agent, thank you again, my friend. I really do appreciate it. Let's do this again with one of your other dominant strategies whenever we run into something that we think is worth sharing here on the channel. You down for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Not that you could say no, because we're recording right now, but either way, I'm going to hold you to it. Guys, thank you so much for coming through the video today. I appreciate each and every one of you. And make sure before you go, you check out one of the other pro tip videos that we've done here with other Space Station guys in a week or so past. So take care, guys. Have a great day, and be good.